So this low-life Voidforge Cyclone champion has near perma berserk, permanent adrenaline, permanent onslaught, almost 200% increased AoE, and it still kind of sucks, honestly. And it's basically because Cyclone as a skill has no base AoE and no base damage. And the way that I'm playing this on hardcore is with Voidforge, a sword that scales really well with baseline Flat Fizz. I'm getting flat physical damage from two main sources. Firstly, I'm using Bloodthirst support, and this is enabled when you're on low life. In other words, I'm a Petrified Blood low life build, and then you get a bunch of life. I don't really have that much, but it does give me quite a bit of flat physical damage. The second way I'm getting flat fizz is by using Abyssus. Now, normally playing Abyssus on hardcore, especially with a low life build, and I mean that both in the source of low life and also in terms of generally low maximum HP, is really risky. But when you click the champion ascendancy, you don't really care about physical mitigation. With my temporary buffs down and with Molten Shell down and no flasks up, I can basically tank a low roll Shaper Slam, so it's not bad. And then with your buffs up, you can tank, most things in the game as far as physical damage goes. Because I'm also playing a Petrified Blood low life character, I don't really have issues with recovery. Instead, you have permanent overleach as well. If I played this as like a Molten Strike character or a Volcanic Fissure character, I would literally have 15 to 20 million DPS right off the bat just by switching a couple things out. It's really stupid how bad Cyclone is right now, and I wish this was playable as an attack skill other than with, strength stackers using Replica Alberons and Shockwave support, which already has really broken numbers to begin with. That said, I still think there's a lot of really cool tech in this build, so let's go over that. So I don't know if I'm going to cover everything, but I really want to talk about what low life is enabling on this character. So firstly, obviously you get Bloodthirst support and you get the Petrified Blood setup, but it also gives you a ton of flat auras, and this is really strong in a champion because you get to run a high level precision, a high level vitality, and a high level clarity is actually really helpful because I don't actually have mana leech on this character. I just have the mana regen from this and a really low cost Cyclone. This is really big because your mark on hit costs so much. In fact, my Assassin's Mark costs almost my entire unreserved mana bar right now, and that's really bad. But it is what it is. You also get to run Blood and Sand on here, and this really helps out with giving your Cyclone AoE. Now, the other really cool thing that this low life setup enables is Brink of Death, and this gives you regen, 4% regen, an insane amount when you're on low life. Now, I don't actually get regen, instead I'm using Cam Spirit, and this turns your regen into rage generation, and when you have, I think I have roughly in the range of 8.4 rage regen, it gives you a lot of berserk uptime, and this is necessary in my opinion to play Cyclone with. You need something like Self Chill, Berserk, being a raider, something to give you a ton of speed, because you can see I'm at 216 move speed. That's pretty good. But when I start channeling my Cyclone, which is what you're doing a lot of times, my move speed goes down to 138%, which is like actually terrible. That's how I'm solving the Cyclone low damage issue on a budget. It's still not really solved. My damage is still not good. When it comes to the AoE problem, Cyclone has really bad base AoE. I think the base AoE on this is like worse than Blade Vortex or on that level. In other words, basically unplayable. And in order to get roughly 200% increased AoE, I run a ton of +1 melee strike range tattoos. Unlike other skills that are not strike skills, Cyclone can benefit from this, but the benefit is only 8% increased AoE per node. It's not very good. I'm also using Warrior's Tail, so it's doubling the effectiveness of the strike range nodes that are within this radius. Still not very good. And then I'm taking this cluster for Brinkmanship, +3 range over here. I also generally take the +3 range over here with swords when I'm mapping. I switch over to this when I'm trying to do bosses. Not that I ever would with this build. And you basically only have what you have in the video. It's playable, but it's not really that good. Even when I put on the Headhunter and go farm Legion 5 ways, again, it's a fairly solid Legion farmer, but it's definitely not even close to what Kinetic Blast can do when it's scaled well. Other things to note, as a Voidforge build, things like Elemental Equilibrium are really easy to use because you're always cycling between different types of elemental damage. And this Inverted Mastery is really strong because I don't want to play Elemental Weakness, I'm only playing Assassin's Mark as a single curse. Otherwise, the rest of the gear was fairly straightforward, things like Suppression, PDR. I'm also running a Watcher's Eye, which is actually pretty sick, but again, just doesn't really push me towards anything that strong. And finally, I Suppression cap through using Ancestral Vision because I have a lot of suppression. And then the boots go for double element avoidance, which gets you to 100% really easily. I don't have a lot more to say about this build, honestly. I played it for about a day. It was pretty fun for farming a lot of 5 ways, and I made a ton of vines from selling Legion Jewels. Thank goodness I'm done playing this though, because the next build is way better. I think I finally found an HC build that actually has more damage than Eye of Winter.